CloudEagle's SaaS Masterminds Podcast. With me, here is Sophie Wang, Head of Finance of Wefunder. Welcome, Sophie.
Thank you, Prasanna. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure to have you here. A lot of our audience is very interested to know how finance is handled at Wefunder and what do you do with all the SaaS application management and how have you grown your career. So in this podcast, I'm going to cover a lot of topics around what does Wefunder do, try to understand what does the head of finance do at Wefunder, and also get into some aspects of how are you handling SaaS management and finances for Wefunder. Does that sound fine?
Sounds great. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's start with a quick round of introduction. So Sophie, would love to hear about you from your own words on your career growth. I know you come from an investment banking background and then you came into the tech finance side of things. So it would be great to hear how did that transformation happen from an investment banker to tech finance?
Yeah, I appreciate it. The question. It's really interesting from my personal perspective because I started doing investment banking since 2016 in New York City. And after 3 years, I moved to West Coast and started doing in tech finance world. To me, I think it's definitely a crucial change because I feel in the banking industry, you're constantly just go, and there's a lot of very intense training, but I really hard for me to keep up work-life balance, or to have a dedicated team I can, talk with, work with, and play with in a lot of different areas. So I really think, personally, I love that change, just become lifestyle change. But also, I was able to dive deeper within a company, within one product. Wefunder is the second tech startup I've worked at. And I have to say, since I joined tech startup world, I feel I might be working more hours, but I definitely love every second I spend with my team this year.
Awesome. That's great to hear. You definitely started off telling that you're looking for work-life balance, and you ended up saying you probably are working more here, but you're enjoying it. So what is it that in work within Wefunder or in the tech space that is more enticing for you right now?
That's a great question. I think the pace or the cycle in kind of differs in investment banking versus tech startup industry. Because in investment banking is project based, you have a huge customer base you will go after. You could be drilled down industry specific or transaction specific, but eventually you are working with multiple customers that are constantly looking for business opportunities. But for tech startup, I think the pace is much more, I guess, in my view, more manageable, where you have uptimes, you have downtimes, and also you're able to do a lot of deep dive when you have more time. That's the biggest regrets when I was at investment banking I wanted to have, but because it's very project focused, I have to shift my focus immediately. In tech startup, it grants me this opportunity. Even if I'm working longer hours, I'm spending the time I want diving deeper. I don't feel like it's a chore. I'm really feeling my interests and insights inside of that. And also growing together with a team, you're feeling like fostering a baby together. that feeling or that sharing of information and knowledge is actually quite rewarding in my experience.
Nice. That's great to hear. Tech startups or any technology company does give you that bandwidth to go in deep in certain areas. That's great to hear. So would you mind telling to the audience what Wefunder does?
Yes, absolutely. Wefunder is a crowdfunding company where you, me, and everybody can invest at least $100 to the private startups you believe in or you enjoy their product or service. So far, we have raised for a lot of hyper customers, but also we want to drill in communities in every corner of the world for you to support the startups, the companies, or the founder friends you believe in. This is us, and we'd love for you to check out our website, wefunder.com, and communityrun.com, and also our new EU launch as well.
Awesome. Thanks for talking about the EU launch. I know you're expanding into EU now. So how is it different comparing the funding scenario within US market, the North America market, and the EU market?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a really exciting project for us since it's our very first international footprint expansion. We started our EU initiative back last year, and like last month, we already launched quite a few great startups in Europe. I think our team, I think like it's relatively small compared to the US, but they're able to move very fast. They're able to start fresh using what we have learned in working with EU customers, US customers, but we are able to also do a lot of creative stuff in Europe. And I'm quite impressed because I never personally been to Europe. I just really like the idea having been able to working with different founders from different countries. And we did our translation service very like spot on and timely. So everybody, even using different language, will be able to invest in the company they believe in across Europe.
That's very cool. Yeah, we do have European customers, so I can imagine how hard it is to do the translation and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that everyone within Europe are also able to invest in startups they believe in. That's great. So from a tech perspective or a finance perspective, was it different when you're entering the European market?
Very much so. Wefunder operates in crowdfunding space, which is, in my opinion, very heavily regulated industry, constantly on the edge of time, constantly on the edge of our regulations, and constantly on the edge of like even like with the intricacy of VC world.
Yeah.
So yeah, like definitely a lot of people have been always questioning us, particularly from the administrators. But I think in Europe, we are actually enjoying this kind of more lenient legal environment where allow us to work with EU regulators and to do more crowdfunding possibilities with EU. We also partner with EU VC funds as well. So that's like thing that we could be only dreaming of in US, and that's been fantastic.
Oh, that's totally opposite to what I was probably imagining. Because whenever you think about EU, like in our case also, like we have a lot of EU customers, and it's like GDPR requirements, a lot of other requirements which come in. But you just told me the other way around, where the regulations is much simpler in the funding space.
Yeah, I might be oversimplifying a little bit. I think it comes in different ways. In some area, the regulations might be more hefty than US regulations. But in terms of fundraising laws and regulations, I think we are very spot on and trying to be compliant in Europe. And so far, it's been much less burden than we have taken on in US.
Okay.
Yeah. I think when you're speaking about that, I think the other good perk we have for EU is, you know, you are able to work across countries, right? So like there are like we have team in Amsterdam, in UK, so there are a lot of parts like we can work to find the best solutions across Europe. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And from a technology perspective or a SaaS perspective, was there any change in the stack when you are moving to Europe?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the way I think that happens, I did not dream of we will have SaaS savings opportunities when we were launching a new initiative. But turns out when the whole team is really focused on finding their new vendors, the vendor searching process / cost saving process actually benefits our US team as well. For example, we have a very old school compliance vendor supplier. Like when they basically provide service, when a investor click the link, they will verify the link and it's from a fraudulent IP address or not. Through our EU launching project, we were able to identify a much faster, much better vendor who provides similar service and for a much cheaper price, bundling EU and US together. Yeah,
that's great.
I think Andrew from CloudEagle team actually helped to finalize that contract.
That's amazing to hear. Yeah, that's great to hear. Now, so in terms of just shifting gears now, right? So we discussed about how you moved from investment banking into tech, and then discussed about Wefunder, how Wefunder is entering into the European market. and the SaaS technology over there, how it is a bit different, how you're finding it more easier to get things done, right? Now, coming back to the SaaS spend space, because that is an area which you are focused on currently. Now, when you joined Wefunder, I'm sure the audience would also love to know, when you joined Wefunder, how was the technology stack within Wefunder, and how are SaaS spend being managed in terms of finances and the licenses and things like? Would love to understand how they were being managed when you joined Wefunder.
Sounds good. I was the first finance full-time hire in Wefunder. So as you can imagine, I have to start a lot of things from scratch. And that was back in 2022. And a lot of audience probably know it was a time when the scaling up culture kind of shifted to, we need to really start cost saving, think wisely and spend wisely.
Yeah.
I think given that context, for me, it's quite challenging not, as a finance leader, not only in cost saving space, but also in a lot of other areas in finance that I need to be taking care of for the company. So I guess like, my cost saving with SaaS definitely is like pre-CloudEagle and the post-CloudEagle. It is a dramatic change for me, at least. For example, like I remember back in July, I will have to put together Google Sheets to list out all the SaaS vendor softwares we have and invite everybody from our company to review the sheets and give comments. And as you can tell, if you rank this sheet of like 200 line items from biggest band to smallest band, not a lot of people are gonna have patience to go through all of this, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's just very challenging to do. And also, secondly, I think it's really hard to compile the notes together. People might have different thoughts from different departments about the same tool and how we utilize that tool. Or is there any cheaper replacement for that tool, or a combination of tools to be able to satisfy what we need? So like a lot of discussions was solicited back then, but it's definitely not as clean, organized since after I adopted like CloudEagle in our system. So I think we started in touch back in last July, like the second month when I started onboarded, and it's just really helpful. The service I got from CloudEagle, and also now the platform, which is still growing and being improving, it's been quite helpful. Andrew in CloudEagle team has just almost like our another full-time hire.
Yeah.
And she's been really amazing and resourceful and spot on in terms she's leading like contract, like finalizing contracts, usage monitoring, all that discussions with reps and account managers of vendors. And also we're able to use the platform to track, like for example, my 3 number in CloudEagle platform is year-to-date savings and saving opportunities. It's right in the dashboard of like upper right corner, which I can click and give, the CEO or department leaders any details they want. So I think that's just been really, really helpful. I cannot simply imagine my world without CloudEagle.
That's great to hear, and thank you for that compliment. Yeah, I think for us, potential savings, which you just mentioned, right, that which is there on the dashboard where you can just download what you have already saved and then share it with your executive team. That's the eventual goal of the platform and the services. Now, when you joined, I'm sure the company was using Google Spreadsheet, as you were just mentioning, right? And I'm sure there would have been a lot of back and forth happening between the teams. Do you know how long this was going on before you decided that you needed to bring something in?
That's a good question. I think it came to a mutual decision point where everybody's just had enough with Google Sheets.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember my CEO just forwarded me the email from you guys and saying like, can you talk to CloudEagle team and find out what they do? Honestly, I was feeling like that's the a straw I grabbed when I was about to drawn in the ocean of finance right here. I was like, wow, this is very interesting. And honestly, it didn't take much time to convince me from you, because I think the platform was there when we started talking, and also there a lot of opportunities for your like vendors you have partnered with. And also based on my very limited product search on the market, I think CloudEagle is the best one that suits our needs and also easy to understand. So that was like quite easy, like I would say, decision for me to make and to get CloudEagle on board with us. But I'm curious to hear you guys' story, like what is what is happening back then. I think you guys were 6 months in since you guys started.
Back then, I think we had done the development on the product side, and then we were acquiring customers. That's when we were speaking to you as well. Since then, a lot of things have changed, as you have seen, both in terms of the platform and the services. Where platform, we have evolved from being a SaaS management platform to being a full-fledged SaaS spend management platform and also SaaS procurement platform, where now you are using workflows, right? Where workflows are created, assigned to different folks, they go and take actions on it, or you have all your contracts, as you were mentioning, and you have all your spend report and the savings analysis also in the platform. So that's where we are evolving towards, like a complete SaaS management. And once you have all these tools, we realized folks want to go ahead and provision and deprovision users as well. Because you realize there are 80 people who are not at all using a particular application. Why should they have licenses? Now you can just click a button and then deprovision all of them in one shot from CloudEagle. So that's where we are going. We have all those things there. We are adding a lot more things around budgeting, forecasting, spend to expense, multiple things coming in that direction. Vendor portal where you can directly talk to the vendors instead of going it through an email. So all that is happening in the platform today. So that's how we are evolving. And thank you for being on the journey of evolution with CloudEagle.
Absolutely. Really impressed by you guys' progress.
Yeah, thanks. Now, Sophie, the audience would also love to know tips for, let's say, a new head of finance or a new finance manager joining a company. What are some things which they can do to get visibility into where they are spending? So it need not be just about SaaS spending, also in general, like once you join a new company, what are some of the things which a head of finance or a finance manager can do?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and quite I have so much to talk about from this question. Like I'm still view myself as a emerging new finance leader, so I definitely can speak from my experience. You definitely want to spend your first 3 months diving the financial historicals numbers of the company you joined as a leader to really understand what is going on. The numbers, a lot of the numbers can tell you about the story, like who is spending the most, who is spending the least, who is actually going out there like save money for you guys. And also there is a lot of stories telling on the revenue side how the company has been coming along. Are they diversifying their revenue streams, or their focused product development team? Right, so it's a lot of things I think you can tell from the numbers, and also you can use the numbers to empower your insights, and you can use those insights to communicate with either its leadership team or anybody who has any questions for you, particularly from employee side. So I think first, once you do finish the first step, it will be really give you a really good foundation to hone your understanding about the company. And from there, I would say like focus on the reporting responsibilities. I would assume if you are a startup finance leader, you will have some sort of monthly, quarterly reporting responsibilities to the board and to the investors. I would definitely focus on the metrics monitoring and being able to build simple financial model to project and also update the historical numbers. I think with that you have kind of like sort of FP&A function built, you'll be able to really extend your site on company specific or any other areas you would like to dive in. For me, I think Wefunder, the expectation and also my personal interest lies in operational stuff. So like a lot of, like I'm starting to take on a lot of ops heavy projects. For example, we are filing taxes for our companies and investors. That is being quite a tax season. But because I have the time saved from cost saving team working with CloudEagle, and also we have other sources helping me to lift the job up. And I'm able to spend more time on ops related.
Nice.
And kind of, I come into circles and I can bring the insights from ops back to finance practices.
That's great to hear. Especially when you're joining a company, how you can get few things organized in terms of FP&A and ops, so that you get your time back to do other things. So first go in, get your books in line, and then start driving initiatives, if that's what I'm hearing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I can imagine everybody has different background, from sales, marketing, and also, maybe traditional finance background like investment banking or other like traditional finance analytics. So everybody's skill set is different, right? And if you being a head of finance, you will see like different areas to learn. But if you're coming from a non-typical financial background, I would definitely say focus on your Excel skills, make sure you can twiddle all the worksheets really well, or in Google Sheets for a lot of people. That's like kind of most hard, I guess, technical part of it. But once that's done, you definitely would have much more insights in terms of what you've been specialized in, and share that with the broader finance team.
Nice. And you did mention that because of CloudEagle, you're able to get a lot of time back. So what were you doing before CloudEagle, and what changed after CloudEagle? So if you could shed some light over there, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I think the most time saving for me is like communication time, like communicating with the internal team in Wefunder, and also communicating out with the vendors, negotiating contracts. So CloudEagle really saved time for both ends. Sometimes I find myself in a Slack chat with our internal team members and with our CloudEagle team manager. And Andrew, who is the team manager, will be leading the discussion, telling us what the contract is due and what terms it is, and so far what the usage has been. And it just saves so much time for me to, one, collect the data, and two, like, finding like the right person, right timing to talk about it. And also on the outside is like, with the vendor, what will be the contract terms? Can we, like, if we have any specific needs, for example, postponing the contract or changing it from monthly to annual. These are all considered and being laid out as options via like CloudEagle. So that's been just very helpful for me to save much more time on that.
Thanks, Sophie. And what about the onboarding? Because initially you're managing spreadsheets, and now you're moving into like a platform, right? Like, because that's a heavy lift. Because you have everything in a spreadsheet, now you're moving to a platform where everything comes automatically. But how's your onboarding experience as such?
Yeah, I mean, for me, onboarding process has been pretty short and sweet, I would have to say. Technically, it's just really easy to watch how CloudEagle team has been plugging in their front end with our back end, like QuickBooks, within 30 minutes, which is really impressive. Also, I would want to highlight, since we're being leaning really heavily on their service side, we were able to identify the key shareholders internally at Wefunder, and being able to talk about contract negotiating outside with the vendors. That took about, I would say, 1 or 2 months. And like our team, our CloudEagle team has been handling it extremely well from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Now, for a new head of finance, when they come in, we discuss how they can set up a process, right? And you mentioned that having a platform helps. Now, what are you doing once you have a platform and services? Because now you're getting so much time back.
Yeah.
What are you doing with all that time?
That's a great question. I will say, like, there's in the tech startup world, there's always so much you can do.
Yeah.
The only thing running short is time. As a finance leader, I was thinking this when we're talking, Prasanna. I feel you have monthly, quarterly reporting responsibilities and all that, which give actually be best for new finance leaders to actually keep your hands dirty, keep going into the data yourself. It's amazing to have like a team, a whole platform, a product to lift up a lot of things you do, but you still should have the capability to yourself that you can dive into numbers anytime, because questions and details could determine very significantly the next quarter spend or next month spend. That's kind of like what I've been learned, and I feel like I wanted to share with the team. And also I would say, like, as a finance leader, definitely would want to take your time to get to know the company, because if we're cutting savings from vendors with working with different leaders, sometimes we inevitably like step on their feet.
Yes.
And we have to be coordinative in so many different ways with them. And getting their insights. Therefore, building relationships throughout this process, I think is really crucial to all of us.
Yeah. And you brought in a very good point, which is building relationship, right? And this is not just with internal key stakeholders, because you're new, you want to build a relationship with everyone internally, but also externally now, because now there are new vendors whom you're talking to. And how can someone go about doing this? Because you'll have like 200 vendors. And I do not believe you will have enough bandwidth to go and build relationship with 200 vendors, right? How do you go about doing or building that relationship? What would you try to do on your own versus what would you try to hand off to someone else to build that relationship? Which ones would you keep and which ones would you try to offload?
That's a good question. Yeah, I definitely would think there has to be a prioritization process, like you said, Prasanna. I do think also, like, there is, for me, like, for example, if I do it today to build in terms of building relationship with vendors, I will look out for two sources. One is actually the spend, how I can see it from CloudEagle to determine the prioritization of this product. And if we're spending a lot, I definitely want to spend a lot of time to understand the use case and project the usage accordingly. Second, I think it's a lot of, I would say, like product focused and kind of a legacy sort of area where the company cares a lot. Depending on which industry or which service you provide, you would by nature have a lot of really good friends or vendors that you can become really close with. That's a really good relationship building opportunity, because you are able to not only talk to their reps, but also being able to talk to the management team potentially. And that's a lot of where you can talk about or see new products. You can be trying their new products and being able to get on really good pricing terms. But that said, I would just pop into my mind that even with a lot of account managers, you can tell if they want to build a relationship with you or not, or they just want to sell the deal, right? I've definitely benefiting a lot from building true relationships with the account manager just by simply replying to your messages, setting up a call, getting some FaceTime. That's just the human nature. Once they know you, they would want by nature to do something good for you.
Nice. That's a very good point. I think vendor relationship is something which a lot of companies think that, okay, it's just transactional. It is really not transactional. If you have built that relationship, there is that human aspect to it, which is able to get you probably more savings than if it was just transactional, asking someone to, okay, give me discount, right? It's not going to happen that way. So that's where building partnerships and having real relationship with the account managers on the other side, definitely. Thanks for that insight. I think that is something which a lot of people miss out on in terms of managing and maintaining vendor relationship. It's very crucial.
I would just want to say, I totally agree with what you said, and I feel the attraction is mutual, right? If you believe in law of attractions, I think in my context, Wefunder is a very product-driven company. Thus, we actually made a lot of friends who are building niche and awesome product along the way, and we eventually became their service provider, and they become our vendor as well. But I know in tech startup world, there are so many other companies focusing different things. If you're a sales-driven company, you might find yourself making more friends or like enjoying the terms provided by sales-driven company, which is pretty good also, in my opinion. But also I will say like, really to get to know what your team specialize in and bring on the experts from your team would definitely help pushing the relationship building side.
Yeah, because it's not a one person's job, right? It's the team which is trying to do this.
Yes.
Before I let you go, I had one question, which would be, what tips would you have for someone who is just starting off their finance manager career on how they can grow on to become like head of finance? I'm sure everyone here would be very interested to know from your point of view.
If you have to ask me and tell you my truth, you say run away. But I would say professionally answer this question. I would be saying like, it's a great question. I would say like being a finance leader means you have to really look out for a team. You are shouldered with responsibilities that you're watching out for the company financially, which is crucial to a lot of companies nowadays. I know that we've been going through a more difficult time in either tech or a lot of industry-wise in the United States and across the world, but definitely have belief and value your perspective at how your team can add value to the industry, to the world, and being able to trust the team and empowering them. Being a finance leader, I think that's really important and hard to let go of. I think from my friends, I have this friend circle who are like leaders across different areas. I feel like being able to know, understand, have a genuine interest about what other people are doing in different teams or different industry or different experiences, it always helps you along the way. So I definitely would encourage you to stay open-minded, have patience, and also don't forget to be always curious.
Thank you. I think being always curious is the greatest thing you could have given. That's the best tip out there. Thank you so much, Sophie, for joining us in CloudEagle's SaaS Masterminds podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Hopefully you also did. And we look forward to working with you and continue to support you.
For sure. Thank you. This is really great conversation. Thank you, Prasanna.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.